It's not pleasant busting a long-held myth about a much-admired and highly decorated veteran of the Afghanistan war. But Australia really needs to know the truth about VC recipient Ben Roberts-Smith. For the last 3 years, he's been under police investigation, accused of war crimes. The former soldier emphatically denies any wrongdoing, repeatedly saying he has nothing to hide about his time in Afghanistan. But tonight we reveal startling new information that will shock the nation. It's about Roberts-Smith's efforts to conceal evidence and threaten witnesses who dared to stand up to him. And a warning. This joint investigation by 60 Minutes, the Sydney Morning Herald and the Age newspaper contains confronting material. Is there a more gallant sight? Australian Special Forces in full flight in Afghanistan. Fearless warriors willing to sacrifice their lives to defeat the enemy and defend the innocent. These are the pictures the soldiers want you to see. But there's a problem. It's not the whole truth. Tonight, another view of the Afghanistan mission. One that some soldiers don't want to share. There's little that's heroic here. Instead, soldiers seemingly hell-bent on breaking the rules, and worse. And front and centre in this group is someone who went to extraordinary lengths to try to ensure this evidence of wrongdoing was never uncovered.
Now I'm going to do everything I can to destroy them. All those things. And that's my sole fucking mission in life.
But as clever as he thought he was, he failed. Until 5 years ago, the thought Australian soldiers would ever stoop so low as to commit war crimes was unthinkable. But the hushed stories about what really happened in Afghanistan couldn't be ignored. And so investigators were assigned to collect evidence and identify suspects as part of an independent military inquiry. One former soldier stood out from the pack. A big man who wasn't afraid to assert his influence. His attitude left no one in any doubt. What happens on tour should stay on tour, no matter how bad. A major investigation by 60 Minutes, The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald can reveal the extreme and potentially criminal lengths this ex-soldier went to silence his enemies and to cover up the truth.
I'll take my bullets and I've got the bank to do
it. There's a bizarre opening scene to this story of national shame. A backyard in Queensland's Sunshine Coast and a child's pink lunchbox filled with computer USBs containing graphic evidence of appalling conduct. A former soldier digs a hole and buries his secrets. He thought they would never be found, but he was wrong. The soldier is Ben Roberts-Smith, Australia's most decorated Afghan veteran. Sometime last year, detectives covertly retrieved the contents of the USBs that Ben Roberts-Smith had buried in the backyard of his Queensland home. And what they found was jaw-dropping, shocking images that form part of a prolonged cover-up that will not only shock the nation, but lead to questions about whether Ben Roberts-Smith has sought to undermine Australia's justice system. And if he has, why he's gotten away with it. The USBs are a treasure trove of disgrace, starting with hundreds of lewd photos of Roberts-Smith and his comrades. Some are taken at the Australian base in southern Afghanistan and show embarrassing drunken nights at a makeshift bar known as the Fat Lady's Arms. But other images are from the battlefield, including one that stands out for all the wrong reasons. We showed it to Admiral Chris Barry, the former chief of our Defence Force. This is a man killed in 2012 by Australian Special Forces. You'll see 2 coins have been placed on his eyes. Yes. If you look closely, one is a Special Forces souvenir coin. Yes. And the other is a 2 Squadron SASR souvenir coin. Is there any excuse for desecrating a dead Afghan like that?
No. Well, the way I understand the Geneva Conventions, marking around with the corpses of dead people on the battlefield is a war crime. That's trophy hunting.
Trophy hunting?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
That means we're doing this in order to create a trophy of somebody we've just killed. That's certainly not on.
Pictured alongside the body are boots belonging to soldiers who fought with Ben Robert Smith's SAS patrol team. You led our military. Does it offend you?
Of course it does. On any occasion where people behave like that, I find it offensive. And I think I find it offensive on behalf of all those decent men and women that serve in our Defence Force. I think it conveys a sense of increasing brutality, a sense too that somehow these aren't human beings like the rest of us.
Ben Robert Smith has been the subject of multiple official inquiries into allegations he murdered and brutalised unarmed Afghans between 2006 and 2012. So you're accusing him of engagement in war crimes?
I am.
He's publicly denied accusations he participated in or covered up war crimes. In fact, he's claimed he's gone out of his way to help the authorities do their job. This is a lie. 5 years ago, to find out what really happened in Afghanistan, the Defence Force set up a special inquiry, headed by Major General Paul Brereton. It compelled those suspected of war crimes and those who'd witnessed wrongdoing to reveal everything they knew. But Ben Robert Smith took the law into his own hands by concealing evidence and burying it in his backyard.
This inquiry needed the utmost transparency and accountability in the way it conducted its operations, and that includes receiving all available evidence. The idea that some information could be hidden from the inquiry by someone is absolutely horrifying.
Former Supreme Court Judge Anthony Wheely QC has never, in all his time on the bench, heard of someone burying evidence in a child's lunchbox.
The ultimate offence is attempting to pervert the course of justice. That's a very serious offence. I think it carries, from memory, a 10-year sentence under the Crimes Act, Commonwealth.
What does it suggest about the conscience of a man who buries evidence in his backyard?
I don't know the man, but why would he do it? Well, if it's to do with concealing information from the Brereton inquiry, then I can only assume that it's a deliberate effort to mislead or distort the outcome of the inquiry.
Looking at this grisly photo, it's obvious why Ben Robert Smith would want to conceal it. 2 days after the Afghan was killed and the Australian soldiers had desecrated his remains, the same men held a dress-up party back at their base in southern Afghanistan. It's here you can see how undisciplined they'd become. One soldier, known to be a close friend of Ben Robert Smith, thought dressing up in a Ku Klux Klan costume in a Muslim country was okay. In another photo, the same soldier is seen holding a noose.
It's not representative of our country. It's not even representative of our great and glorious ally, even though they are the ones that have the Ku Klux Klan.
If you look at this image here, you see our Ku Klux Klan Special Forces soldier holding a burning cross.
Even worse. Look, it's entirely inappropriate behaviour. I think it's a failure of leadership. It's a failure on behalf of the people involved and the witnesses that were there as well. If this isn't already known about, it's concealed evidence.
At the back of the group, Ben Robert Smith is pictured smiling and cheering as his mate burns a wooden cross in front of him. Drinking and messing around on base was a common way to unwind after a brutal day of combat. But the images buried by Ben Robert Smith point to something much more toxic. Soldiers appear to be blind drunk. Some are naked. Others are vomiting and urinating. Disturbingly, even commanding officers and senior soldiers are getting in on the filth. In this photo, one of the highest ranked soldiers on base is seen simulating a sex act with a subordinate. And here's a commanding officer doing the same. What sort of standard does that set?
When I was CDF and I was made aware of that kind of behaviour, those people lost their jobs very quickly. If that's the kind of behaviour that's been going on in our Defence Force, then I think it's highly regrettable. It's not representative of what the community in Australia would demand. They expect a lot of an institution like the ADF, and that's not the behaviour that we could condone in any way.
Nor would this be condoned. Here's an Afghan with a prosthetic leg who has been shot dead by the SAS. And here are soldiers and officers using the same leg to drink booze. Ben Robert-Smith is smiling and embracing one man who drank from the leg. But here's the worst part. It's alleged Ben Robert-Smith was the soldier who unlawfully executed the man with the prosthetic leg. It's an accusation he denies, but police are continuing to investigate it. These are the photos that have been concealed from the Bartlett inquiry.
Yeah, all that material needs to come forward. It's making light of things that have taken place on the battlefield. It's inappropriate behaviour. It has to be properly investigated and dealt with. It's not appropriate, and it's not us.
But it wasn't just the secrets inside the lunchbox that Ben Robert-Smith was intent on hiding. Ben Robert-Smith served multiple tours of duty in Afghanistan between 2006 and 2012. When he returned home for the final time, he was already Australia's most decorated Afghan veteran, a national icon who would later be the country's Father of the Year and head of the Australia Day Council.
Your Excellency, I present to you Corporal Benjamin Robert-Smith, awarded the Victoria Cross.
But soon he would face questions about whether he was really a hero. In 2016, the Brereton War Crimes Inquiry was set up and soon began focusing on allegations Robert-Smith had engaged in serious wrongdoing. By June 2018, the accusations had been made public. Robert-Smith was furious and set out for revenge.
All kinds of people chimed in for their own benefit, saying, as soon as there was not blood in the water and thought, oh, Robert-Smith's going down, and fucking shine it.
Secret audio recordings obtained by 60 Minutes in the Age newspaper show for the first time what he was really thinking behind the scenes, despite going to great lengths to evade detection.
So you get this thing like Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram is probably the best one. All encrypted. Intelligence agencies cannot recover it.
It's clear he wanted to destroy anyone he thought was damaging his reputation, naming politicians, SAS soldiers and reporters.
Now this person, now I'm going to do everything I can to fucking destroy them, and I'll keep going. All those journalists. And that's my sole fucking mission in life.
In the recordings, Robert-Smith exudes confidence. And why not? He has the backing of a very powerful benefactor, media mogul Kerry Stokes. The billionaire owner of Channel 7 had employed him as a senior executive in 2014. And Robert-Smith reckoned with Stokes' financial support to fight war crimes allegations, his opponents would back off.
I'll be able to keep paying what I'm paying for. Very good, isn't it? And that's why now they're shooting themselves, so they realise it's better to run his bank now and just do it.
Kerry Stokes is clearly a generous boss. He arranged to finance Ben Robert-Smith's defence at the War Crimes Inquiry.
I offered to resign at the start when they just said, it's good it's played out the way it has behind closed doors because they now understand they've got what they need to be comfortable.
But was Robert-Smith really telling Kerry Stokes everything? We can now reveal the lengths the ex-soldier went to protect his reputation, including attempts to silence witnesses who gave a different version of events in Afghanistan. It's a tale almost too far-fetched to believe, but one that reveals how devious Ben Roberts-Smith can be. Back in 2018, as one SAS sergeant prepared to give evidence at the Brereton inquiry, he received an anonymous letter warning him to shut up.
You have one chance to save yourself. Don't forget this, because it will not go away. You will go down.
Well, it's the sort of thing we see in The Godfather or mafia-type movies, isn't it? And so we don't think it happens in Australia. But if it does happen, then it's demonstrative of the worst kind of affront to the judicial system. And if it did happen, then it reflects the very worst on those who are involved.
Former Supreme Court Judge Anthony Wheely says the intimidation of witnesses, if proven, is a serious criminal offence. Why does the law and the criminal justice system look so dimly upon those who seek to intimidate or silence witnesses?
The search for truth will be totally distorted if witnesses can be set aside, because it means you won't get a just outcome.
In 2018, the Federal Police began investigating who was behind the threatening letter, but had little luck. Now, I've tracked down multiple sources who say they know the real story behind the letter, and what they've told me is extraordinary. The threatening letter was organised by none other than Ben Roberts-Smith. He bought the paper and stamps to send it, and printed it at a Channel 7 office in regional Queensland. He then arranged for someone else to mail it, and it was sent from a postbox in Tweed Heads, New South Wales. An anonymous letter in the mail, very carefully posted, no traces of the sender. What does that suggest?
Well, it shows a deliberate attempt to prevent evidence being given that surely ought to have been given to the inquiry or to the police. But it's also thuggery of the worst kind.
But the thuggery didn't end there. As the Brereton inquiry heated up, a mysterious person circulated an anonymous complaint to police, the media and a federal politician. It suggested an SAS whistleblower may be about to commit a public massacre.
The day after the Las Vegas massacre, we raised the attached with the Commissioner of the AFP as a matter of urgent public safety. The AFP have not acted. This matter is time-sensitive and a critical public safety issue.
We can't identify the SAS witness, but Barrister Greg Barnes SC is prepared to speak out on his behalf. The reference to the Las Vegas massacre, why was that placed in there?
Well, one would assume that the reference was there to indicate that this person would go out and shoot up a huge number of people, as tragically happened in Las Vegas. You can't think in our society of a more chilling and serious allegation to be made, and thereby putting a person in a position where they're inevitably going to be subjected to a raid from police, possibly detained for a lengthy period. I mean, it's extraordinary.
The police response to the anonymous complaint was swift and invasive. They raided the SAS soldier's family home. No weapons were found. In fact, not a single piece of evidence was collected at the raid to substantiate the complaint. And today, the witness continues to serve in the SAS. What was the impact of the police raid on the family home of this whistleblower?
This is a one-in-a-lifetime event for a family like this. Suddenly you've got police coming and knocking on your door. This is a very, very traumatic event.
And that was the point, wasn't it?
Well, the point is to make sure that that whistleblower is of no further impact, has no further impact.
Who do you think had the motive to pull this off?
Well, those people who did not want the whistleblower to give evidence.
Ben Roberts-Smith?
Well, that's a matter for the federal police.
"60 Minutes can confirm the malicious complaints were sent to the police and others by an associate of Ben Robert-Smith, who, according to sources, was acting on his orders."
That's even worse than intimidating a witness, because the idea of putting someone in harm's way in relation to an investigation prosecution that's totally unjustified is a completely horrendous thing to do to a person, completely. And it means engaging the police to make inquiries and investigations when they don't have to.
Concealing evidence, burying evidence in a backyard, sending a threatening letter to a witness, conspiring to have another witness raided by the police. What does all this activity amount to in your mind?
Well, it suggests to me that if it could be demonstrated to be true, that the person or persons involved are desperate to keep information away from the police and from the inquiry that was held. And that suggests criminality of the worst kind, and the sort of behaviour which would outrage the community and require urgent police action to uncover it and investigate it correctly.
The shameful revelations of buried evidence and the bullying intimidation of witnesses is a whole new headache for Ben Robert-Smith. For years now, he's been confident a billionaire's backing would protect him, no matter what.
But the season's been good, so I can't complain.
The key question is, what will police do now? And how much longer will Ben Robert-Smith enjoy impunity and Kerry Stokes' support? Now his lies and cover-ups have been laid bare.
I probably won't leave the fold now. I think I'm indebted a little bit now to Jerry. Bottom line, I'm fucked out. Fucked out.
We can confirm the AFP has now launched fresh investigations into Ben Robert-Smith's conduct. If this story raises issues for ADF members or their families, they can contact the Defence All Hours support line on 1800 628 036.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.